Okay, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You will see, well, if you're watching this, you will see that I'm not crocheting or knitting, and we're going to get into the reason for that in a bit. But basically, I have recently come to the realization that I do not know how to rest. I've always told my friends, like, oh, when I'm not working, all I'm doing is scrolling on my phone, and it just makes me feel even worse. But it's because I only stop working when I get so burnt out that I literally can't work anymore. And then I have like no brain cells left, and all I can do is lie in bed, scroll on my phone, and like feel guilty that I'm not working. And of course, that makes you feel shittier. Like, you do need a baseline amount of energy and motivation to go do something that's actively restful, like reading a book or going on a walk. And I am just completely lacking this practice of intentional rest, like taking a break, not because you literally need it, but because it's just part of a more sustainable way of working instead of being on this like burnout cycle that I've been on for basically my whole life. And part of the reason I'm realizing this is because I have had like back-to-back brand deals for the last like 12 to 18 months, which I am so insanely grateful for, by the way. But I got my first little respite this month, and it would have been the perfect time to take a break from filming content and just like do some active rest. And instead, every single day, if it's nice out, I feel like I have to be filming. I kid you not, I have enough content right now to post every single day for probably the next 3 weeks. And I'm still out here filming like it's fucking end times. I took myself out on a me date, but then I ended up making a vlog out of it. So then I was just thinking about filming the whole day. And then it wasn't really like a me date or a break from work at all. So I just wanted to sit down and try to figure out why the fuck I'm like this, and B, kind of work out a practice of intentional rest and like figure out how to incorporate that into my life so that I'm resting and recovering in a like meaningful and actually productive, effective way. I should mention part of the inspiration for this episode, besides like obviously my own life, is an episode that Emma Chamberlain recorded, I don't know, like months ago. That was about something similar. She was talking about how like content, she always feels like she has to keep going and going and she can't take a break. And then she finally did take a break, and all she did was like lie in bed and doom scroll, and she felt way shittier after. And then how she like actually took time, read and do things she enjoys and like, yeah, rest in a way that's actually rest and not just burning out and lying there like a corpse. And listening to that like really blew my mind, because I was like, oh fuck, she just like me for real. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about is like why I feel like I have this struggle. Definitely part of it is the fact that I freelance and I have this like fucking weird ass job. And, I have to be honest, I'm in a really good place now financially. Like, obviously I'm not making as much as I'd be making if, I were still in finance, but like I'm making something very comparable to like corporate pay at my age. And it's definitely scaling and everything is moving in the right direction. But I feel like my mindset is still very stuck in like the first year and a half, when I was making an okay amount of money, but it was like definitely less than I was making in corporate. And I was in this if this doesn't work out, I'm going to have to go back to corporate. And I was like so afraid of that. And I was working so hard, but I wasn't really seeing the results. And I just felt very like I need to work as hard as possible and push out as much content as possible and go in the hopes of hitting a point where I can feel a little bit more secure. Then when I get to that point, I'll find a more sustainable way of working. Like, I knew the way I was working back then was not sustainable, but I was like, I'm just going to do this until I get to a point where I can kind of take a break. And I will say, like, the amount I'm working now is definitely not comparable to how I was the first year, but I still am kind of in this like productivity, maxing, optimizing kind of mindset where it feels like I should just be putting out as much content as I can, and I should just always be focused on growth. And you would think that like because I'm in a better spot now, I would like give myself a bit of a break. But ironically, I'm like, oh, the fact that I posted so much and worked so hard and, expanded outside of crochet and knit content, like I started posting more hair content. So I started getting like hair brand deals and more lifestyle videos. So I started getting more like lifestyle brand deals. Because that was working, I feel like I have to keep doing it. I'm like, oh, if I start posting less, like maybe my brand deals won't keep scaling and I won't keep getting these new opportunities because, the fact that I push out so much content is how these brands are seeing me and finding me. And I think things have trended in a positive direction for me long enough that I really should be able to kind of breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to say that like I'm being completely unreasonable. Like I will say it was only a few weeks that I didn't have a brand deal. Like now my August is like all filled up again. But it was the first time where I wasn't like, oh, I have no brand deals, let me panic. I was like, oh, I have no brand deals, thank God. Like I do kind of react to it differently now because I am definitely in less of a like fighting for my life kind of headspace. But I do think like the amount of like the volume of content that I'm trying to push out could definitely be scaled back a bit. Because also like when you have more active brand deals, that should theoretically take away time from like your organic content. Especially, this is like another thing about me with brand deals. I feel like a lot of influencers are like, let me just make this as easy as possible and get my bag. I try harder on brand deals in my normal videos because I really want to do a good job and build a good relationship. And I don't know, I'm just like a fucking try hard. But I feel like I put like a ton of work into those videos and then still expect myself to like push as much organic content as I used to as well. And the math just like isn't really mathing with that. Anyway, that was a really long rant, but that's definitely one of the reasons I'm like this. I think the second thing is, I don't know, I call it my peer diagnosed ADHD because I'm still not comfortable saying I have it because I haven't been diagnosed by a medical professional. I've just been diagnosed by, my YouTube audience. And I do think it's like pretty mild. But I think between the ADHD and the depression, like I do struggle with like dopamine and motivation. I used to think, oh, like it's just the capitalist mindset that's getting to me and making me think I always have to do shit. But the truth is, being productive and getting things done, that leads you to do more things and it makes you feel good about yourself. Like if you're doing nothing with your time, in theory, it sounds great because it's like, oh, you get to like just have fun and take a break. But eventually it does get to you. And I think it does impact your self-esteem because you're like, what am I doing with my life? And so, when I think about like the times of my life when I'm happy, it's not because I'm like literally doing nothing. Part of it is like the sense of accomplishment that you get from saying you're going to do something and then like actually fucking doing it. I just know that like being productive and doing whatever I wrote down on my checklist and checking it off is like it's like the beginning of like my upward spiral, like out of a bad place. Or not even when I'm depressed, just in general, that kind of feeds like a positive feedback loop towards like doing more things and feeling more like better about myself and having better self-esteem and feeling more motivated. It's like all very connected. I actually did an episode about my dopamine menu where I kind of talk about this. And just every time I talk about my depression, I mention that like achieving one small task and then building from there is usually kind of how I get out of my hole. And then the last reason I think does have to do with my depression and maybe baseline not being like the happiest or most positive person. I think when left with my own thoughts, it does tend to go to a darker place and a very like existential, like, what am I doing? Why am I still single? Time is passing. And I've tried like journaling and like working through those feelings and trying to have a more positive mindset. I don't want to say the solution is just like literally running away from my thoughts, but there is something to be said about like not giving myself too much time with my thoughts and feelings. Like I do think like distraction and like living your life, like doing shit is always gonna kind of help counteract that. And so the obvious next question is like, what are things that count as rest? Like what are things that actively make me feel like rejuvenated and recovered and rebuild my motivation to do things? I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I couldn't think of like really interesting answers. Like they all are kind of like things I already do. But if I were to list it out, Let me think. This is so fraudulent. The first one I was going to say is reading, but I famously don't read physical books. Like, one of the 30 things before I turned 30 is reading a physical book to prove literacy. But I do think reading is like a really amazing form of active recovery. I've mentioned this before, but it's like one of the few things you can do that like takes your full focus. Like, you can't read a book and like let your thoughts stray the way that you might when you're like listening to an audiobook or like watching a movie. It just forces you to like take a break from the world and your brain. So that's definitely something I need to get back into because I do think that would feel really restful for me. Next thing is kind of along the same lines, museums. More so going to them alone because I would say museums are one of those experiences that are just like so different alone versus with people. And they both absolutely have their merits, but they're very different. So like when I go to a museum alone, I will actually like go through, I mean, it depends. If it's like the Louvre, obviously not, but I'll try to like go through every exhibit and read every panel and like really like learn and just like soak up as much information as possible. Whereas when you go with people, it's like a fun experience of reflecting on the art together and like talking about what you like and don't like and what it reminds you of. But I haven't been to a museum alone. I don't think I've ever been to a museum alone here in New York. I've definitely done it when I solo travel, but that's something that I really need to do. I mean, I do have like museums on my under 30 as well, like checking more museums off the list. And some of those I want to like try and do by myself. This next thing I have mixed feelings about. In general with consuming content, it's like, does that go in the restful category or does that go in the like brain rot category? Like, I do think watching TV has become very much like a background thing for me where, you know, crocheting is part of my job and it's just something to watch while I do it. Same goes for some audiobooks. But like recently, I have rediscovered one of my favorite podcasts called 99% Invisible. It's technically a design podcast, but I feel like this maybe sounds derogatory. I think of it more as like a fun fact podcast. Like they will pick some like random object that like you've never thought about and talk about the history of it, why it's designed the way that it is. So that's like the design aspect of it. But it's like more than design. Like it's just taking a lot of the like the mundane things around us and talking about all the ways in which they're really interesting. That's a podcast that I really like thoroughly and actively enjoy listening to. And I get so excited for new episodes. They're doing a series called 100 Objects right now that I am like obsessed with. And so I don't want to put like all podcasts, audiobooks in the category of rest because like, for example, Las Culturistas with like Matt and Bowen, love them down. But while there are certain episodes that I get like really actively excited for and I'm like really engaged, I do listen to a bunch of their old episodes because they've been around for like so many years. Like when I was in Vietnam, I was listening to their old episodes just like on a constant stream throughout the day while I was solo traveling. And so that was kind of more just like background brain silencing content. I think you kind of have to like actively assess like what content is I don't know, like I was going to say feeding you, but you know, like really energizing you and like allowing you to learn things and what's just kind of like there to fill the silence. Something else that I really love, which like sounds so silly, is like walking around. Obviously walking has like the physical aspect to it and I have not been to the gym in Lord knows how long. I don't want to talk about it, but it is like the one form of physical activity that I get, especially in the summer. I can like easily do like quite a few miles on just like a normal day. But particularly walking around. Okay, I'm letting you guys into an inside joke that I have with my friends. And it's like a really long story to explain how this came about. We call it flaneuring. Flaneur is like a French term. And the original meaning of it is like men. Like, I don't know what the original meaning of it is, but our meaning of it is like walking around with no destination, basically. Or like if you're going from like point A to point B, like not taking the fastest route, just kind of like seeing what you come across. For example, when we were in Paris together, we like accidentally came across the Oppenheimer like Paris premiere and we like saw a bunch of the celebrities and we're like, this is why it's so important to flaneur. Like we just like discovered this. And this concept of flaneuring, I don't want to call it that because that's really not what the word actually means. But this concept of just being able to walk around and explore is like another big reason that I love New York and just like more urban areas in general, like what I really struggle with when it comes to the suburbs is that you kind of always have to like have a destination. Like you're getting in your car and going somewhere. I love that with New York. Assuming it's like not the dead of winter, you don't really have to plan and you can just like go to a neighborhood and just kind of walk around and shop around and just like see where life takes you. And that always feels like a very fulfilling experience. And it's something that I definitely don't do enough of. I do it a lot with my friends, but I feel like when I'm spending time alone, I tend to be like very planned about it. And maybe it's because I often like what I'm doing is part of content, but I'm not so good at the kind of like unplanned walking around, wandering. Even the like walking point A to point B though, I really enjoy a good walk. I really want to do the Manhattan top to bottom walk soon, although it's maybe a little bit hot for that right now. I think September would be a good time for that. Something else, this is really not going to come as a surprise to any of you. I just like to lie outside. I mean, most specifically, I like to sunbathe in a bikini, but in general, like if it's nice out, I like to sit outside. I really don't mind like getting quite hot and being under the sun if I'm in my bikini. I get very overstimulated if I do have clothing on and like if my sweaty hair is on my back. I also sweat a lot. I baseline sweat a lot, but then my antidepressants make me sweat more. Sorry, this is not about sweating. But the point is, I just like being outside. Also like being in nature, like when I go on my little road trips with my friends and you're just like sitting in a forest. I mean, I know it's like touching grass is a meme, but you know, going somewhere where you remember that the world is so big and you're so small. That's another reason I love New York, because anywhere you go, there's so many people and it just like puts your life into context versus when you're like in the suburbs and it just feels like you're the main character. Like you're not the fucking main character in New York. New York is a city where you're simultaneously the main character and not the main character. And I will not be explaining that any further. I think something that would be restful for me, I wouldn't really know because I don't fucking do it, is making things and not making content out of it. It's just like very difficult because when it comes to crocheting and knitting, it takes so long that it feels wasteful to not document the process in some way. I think I have gotten better at certain projects. I just do a transition with the yarn and then the end product so that I don't have to like film the process. But obviously like crocheting and knitting used to be like the restful thing that I did to kind of actively do something I enjoy to counteract being in corporate, but now it's my job. But I still really enjoy it. I just think I don't have the capacity to enjoy it outside the context of work. Like I am always thinking about like, oh, should I film this? Like, let me get a few clips, or like, is this going to be a transition? Am I going to have enough yarn left at the end to do the transition? And I want to just allow myself to create even just like, even small things, right? Like, oh, I already made a video about like this top. Let me just make another version of this top and not make content out of it. It's something that I'm trying to get into doing. I haven't really actually done it yet, though, because I don't know, every time I try, I just end up still making content out of it. Whatever. I content max my life. I feel like I won't shut up about that. Honestly, when it comes to like the conversation about what's restful, it's probably like anything that I'm not making content out of. Like anytime I do something and I'm not trying to capture it is probably the most restful thing, but like very few things fall into that category because like you guys know from my YouTube videos, even if I'm like not crocheting that much during the day, I'll like film clips out in the city because I think it makes my videos more fun. And I just like, you can turn anything into content. And I do think the most engaging creators are ones who like don't show you one specific thing. They really like bring you into their life. So I do try and do that. But then, yeah, I like obviously fucks like the delineation between like life and content. Because I have the crochet knitting focus, I don't even think it's as bad as it is for people who are like creators whose content literally is just their life. I'm like, it must be so freaking hard if I'm like already struggling with it. Okay, what are other specific things that are restful? I do love my everything shower. I know this is like such a like stereotypical answer, but I could literally make a 45-minute podcast episode on my everything shower. I will say more and more products get added to it because I get gifted so many free products. I don't know that I like need to have such a robust routine, but I have really gone into like body care, right? Like using, I hate that I love it so much, but the Way body scrub has like actually changed my life. It smells amazing and it makes my skin so soft and I'm like so excited to use it when I shower. And, like I have all my scalp products, my clarifying shampoo. And then when I get out of the shower, I like to like use my body oil or my body lotion that smells really good. I just love that shit because I think, the whole thesis of this episode is that I can't set aside time for myself, but my everything shower is like one of the few things I do that does feel like setting aside time for myself. I was going to put journaling on this list, but I'm hesitant about it because I don't think I've really like mastered journaling yet. I have spoken about how journaling is usually just like an angry brain dump for me, but there are some amazing journal creators, like Journal by Moon. Her name's also Grace. And she does like monthly journal prompts where she like reflects on the previous month and like sets intentions for the next month. Like I feel like I need to do more like kind of prompt-based journaling like that is more leaning in like a positive direction versus a brain dump. And I've been like on and off doing the 5-minute journal, but like I said, I don't think the prompts are ideal. And I've been naming a bunch of things that are all like alone time solo things. And I do really love to spend time alone. Like I get questions about like how to enjoy my own company. And I'm like, I don't think I can give you good advice on that because I naturally do. But I also think that is a reaction to my job. Like I think my social battery has gone down since I started doing content because my life sometimes just feels like a performance. Like I'm always filming, which is like obviously talking. I'm posting on my stories. I'm always on and I'm always like engaging with other people in some way, even if I'm like physically alone. Life just feels very overstimulating to me. And so being alone is just, it feels like a little bit of a break. But I do want to add on this list, and it's probably like the biggest and most important thing, and also like the biggest combatant of my depression is like spending time with my friends. So many of my friends, well, not the friends in my core friend group, my other friends have been like, you have like really good friends and a really good friend group. And I'm like, yeah, bitch, we're just very good at planning activities, spending time together in a very organic, college-like way where I just like randomly hit up the group chat on like a Wednesday evening and then I'll just like go over to someone's apartment and like lie on their couch, hanging out in a way that's not, let's get dinner at this specific time on this specific date in like 14 days from now, And we're also like a friend group, which is like a different social dynamic. We all hang out individually with each other, but it's really fun to do things all together. Spending time with them is like so restful for me. They're also like my non-content friends. I love my content friends down. They're my coworkers. Like I obviously could not do my job without Emily because she literally shoots like every one of my brand deals. But I think having like non-content friends is so good for me because don't get me wrong, if I ask them to take a few photos of me, they will. But it's a tit for tat thing. Like if they don't want photos of them, I'm not going to like bother them too much with it. And I think it's nice to like have time off from the content thing. And I think the time I spend with them is like the closest I get to that. And I guess what I'm realizing is like all these things that I consider active rest, or not all of them, but most of them I do already. But I think they're not serving to be that restful for me because I'm still making content out of it, right? That me date that I went on, I like went to bathhouse and was like crocheting in the sun and I got like my favorite noodles. Like it really was my perfect day and I still enjoyed it, but it would have been more enjoyable and more restful if I had actually like unplugged from social media and not been like taking a bunch of selfies, trying to like post some stories for bathhouse, vlog my me day. It's a whole freaking thing. And it would have just been a very different experience if I had truly just been like, I'm not talking to anyone or posting anything or filming anything. Let me just like actually be in the moment. What I'm struggling with is like, how do I incorporate active rest into my life in a more structured, intentional way? Like ideally, I would abide to more of a regimented, like this is work time and this is playtime kind of schedule. And I have some friends who are creators who do that. They're like, oh, like I have like set days when I work and set days when I don't. But that's just like, I don't think it's realistic for me because there's so many factors, right? Like what brand deals do I have going on? And like I'm shooting those when my friends are free. I'm filming on the days that the weather's going to be good, which I obviously can't predict. And like with my crochet knit projects, like I can't like schedule exactly what days I'm filming because it depends on like how long it takes me to get to like the next section where I'm like going to update you on the project. It would be amazing, but I don't think there's a world in which that's happening for me. So what I'm thinking about now is almost like clocking in hours, which is so funny. Like me talking about rest, but in the context of like clocking work hours. I recognize it's deeply ironic, but I also know this is how my brain works. And I kind of have to treat rest like a to-do list item, or I'm not going to do it. And so, how many hours a week of like rest time do we think I should try and put in? Maybe like, is it, I guess technically it should be 8, right? Because that's like one kind of like work day of not working. But okay, I'm going to say 5 hours, but not include time that I spend with my friends. Because I do think I'm good about having a decent amount of social time every week. I think what I really need to focus on is like doing things alone and like really doing it alone and unplugging from content. And so I think 5 hours a week, and it can be like any of the things I mentioned, but I can't also be leveraging it for content. Honestly, if I'm going to start doing this, okay, I've had this like other podcast slash like video idea, which is literally documenting how I spend my week, because I am always unsure if I'm really busy or I am really bad with my time. It's a little bit hard to know because the boundaries between like work and not work for me are so unclear. But sometimes I'm like, I should really like pick a week, write down what I'm doing with my time, and actually see like how many hours a week I'm working. And I think it would be interesting to do that, record an episode and like talk about what I learned. So maybe I'll do that in the future, but that also sounds like a lot of work, low key. Anyways, the other thing I was going to say is that when I do have time off from brand deals, I feel like I should set aside full days for myself. Like I know I said it's hard in general, but if I don't literally have deliverables due, I should, okay, sorry. I'm just realizing now that I low key right now don't have deliverables due, which means that I should technically be setting aside full days for myself, but that feels really hard for me, which just like goes back to my original point of this video. I'm going to start with the 5 hour a week thing, and then we can go from there. Okay, actually, I just decided, since it's the beginning of the month, it's August 3rd. I think I am going to do some of those like monthly journaling prompts that I mentioned, and that'll be like a good way to like kick off my new active rest practice. Because the other thing that I think journaling will be helpful for is just more actively monitoring what makes me feel good and what makes me feel bad. Actually, let me think. What are things that make me feel bad or that are like not restful? Well, obviously when you get stuck in like a doom scrolling cycle, I don't know, it's really hard for me because scrolling does bring me a lot of joy, like sending really funny videos to my friends and then realizing that they already sent that same video to me. But, and I've mentioned this before, it's less of like a purely enjoyable experience for me because then I see like trends and whatever audios, video ideas that like I should be doing, and then I go down a whole work spiral about how I'm not doing enough, or like maybe if I was doing what she was doing, I would have more followers, whatever, like that whole doom spiral. And so I think that is not so good for me. And when I get stuck, there's like intentional scrolling for fun, and then there's like I am so tired and brain dead, or like I don't want to go to sleep because I had a bad day, so I'm just gonna legit sit here and scroll for like 2 or 3 hours. That obviously makes you feel like shit. And I think I'm pretty good, honestly, about not scrolling. My screen time is usually like 4 to 5 hours a day, which, given a lot of that is obviously like editing and doing my job, I think that's pretty good. Like a lot of my friends with corporate jobs have a similar screen time. So I don't think the scrolling issue is that bad, but it does make me feel shitty. What else makes me feel shitty? I will say, honestly, no, scrolling Pinterest is really fun. I love scrolling Pinterest. I think that is in the like rejuvenating category for me. It does sometimes make me crash out because I'm like, there's so many things I want to knit and crochet and sew, and I'm just one woman, but it's not like an overall negative feeling. And then like with the people in my life and like the energy I surround myself with, I really feel like, and I know I'm like so lucky to say this, but I come back from spending time with the people in my life and I always feel amazing. Like I don't think I have like social interactions where I'm like, oh, I don't like how that person made me feel, or you know what I mean? Like I feel like some people are not very good about like actively assessing like who is bringing good or bad vibes into their life. I'm a highly judgmental person for better or for worse. And so I think I really do surround myself with like the best people who only add to my life. So yeah, not that many things make me feel shitty. That's good, I guess. I mean, well, no, there are a lot of things that make me feel shitty. It's like my depression, but it's not anything in my life that I'm doing. Well, dating makes me feel really shitty, but we can't get into that right now. So yeah, overall, I guess, yeah, that's really a good thing. I can't think of anything else. Honestly, I do think one of the big takeaways from this video is that I need to get back into the journaling thing. Because what I will say about the 5-minute journal, as much as I like say the prompts are great, it really was helping me with like a more positive mindset and like upward spiraling. I was watching a TikTok about this last night. Like the same way you downward spiral, you can also upward spiral. And so you can like take a positive experience or thought or feeling or manifestation and then like go up from there. It's kind of like the like dopamine thing that I was talking about earlier, but more so with like optimism and positivity and believing that everything's going to work out. And the 5-minute journal did force you to like practice gratitude. I think I'm pretty good about being grateful, but writing it down is really helpful. Like almost every single day, I was writing down how grateful I was for my job. And even though I'm not saying anything new, I think starting off the day by reminding myself how grateful I am for my job is so amazing. Because that way, even if I'm having like a really shitty day where I'm beating myself up, like I haven't gotten out of bed until 2, I'm like, everyone else is at their fucking job and I'm just like a piece of shit. But then I'm like, no, but it's like I should be so grateful that I have the type of job where if I'm lacking in sleep or like something traumatizing happened to me, or like my depression is beating my ass, I can have a rest day when I want to. Like that freedom is like, I shouldn't shit on myself. I should be grateful that I get to do that. And then that also is like, what are 3... Okay, you can tell I haven't done it in a while because I low-key can't remember the other prompts. But the point is it forces you to start your day off and end your day in like a positive way of thinking. And I do think that that was like really helping me. So even if I don't keep doing that journal, I need to figure out some sort of framework to practice more gratitude and positivity and just the kind of, it's a bit woo-woo, but the idea that like the universe wants things to work out for you. I saw a video of like a girl saying that it's very woo-woo, but she starts off every day by being like, something beautiful is going to happen today. And she spends the whole day looking for the beautiful thing so that she can like write it down or text her friend. And yeah, it's like more like looking for the joy in life versus waking up like late and just feeling like the day already sucks and you already suck and everything's over, you know? It's all a mindset thing. Okay, I got very off topic. The point is rest. I'm gonna try to clock in my 5 hours of active rest a week. It's kind of stressing me out thinking about this. Again, very ironic, but I know it's gonna be hard for me. But it's a good thing. It's a good challenge to pose myself. I need to stop filming so many goddamn videos. Like, it's all too much. You guys don't need to see my face every time you open Instagram. And then I know the YouTube people are going to be like, why don't you post on YouTube more? And you know why? Because these videos take so fucking long to make. Oh, okay. Getting back to why I'm not crocheting or knitting. It's because this is an episode about rest. And it felt much more restful to me to sit here and talk to you guys without knitting and crocheting at the same time. And I want to get your thoughts on this. If you are someone who knits or crochets or not, I don't want to knit or crochet while I record anymore. But the problem is like the podcast is called Unraveled. It's supposed to be a yarn pun. If I'm not knitting or crocheting, all I'm unraveling is like my fucking self. And I also tend to like name these videos like knit with me or crochet with me because I just have this complex where like if a video isn't fiber arts related, it's not going to do well. Well, it's not even a complex. It is based in truth. Like I think fiber arts is a very clear like vertical. So the algorithm can like really throw me into that audience very easily. Whereas if I don't have that and it's just like a general, just a girl on our bed talking, I just don't think like people will see it. But then I do think my podcast episodes are like my one content format that like really speaks to everyone, even people who don't do fiber art. So like maybe it is better if I just talk. I mean, if you're like knitting or crocheting, it doesn't really matter if I'm doing it at the same time, right? Like I'm not body doubling as literally, but I'm still here. I'm still hooting and hollering for you. So I don't know. Just let me know because I think It's one thing to like chat with a friend while crocheting or knitting, but when I'm like talking myself and trying to be articulate and trying to not say or like every other sentence, it's much easier to do when I'm not multitasking. And I think it would be a good exercise in like not productivity maxing everything in my life, you know? So let me know. I would love to be able to like just record though. Also, I think this is gonna be the first video where you see like some of the room updates I made. The shelf is looking a little whack. This is not how I want it to look, but I need to like buy different trinkets to put on here. Right now I just threw on shit that I have. But I figured it'd be like a better backdrop for my videos because the locker was kind of like level with my bed. So it just didn't really like give any height. I made a bunch of like room updates. I'll show you like in whatever the next video on my channel ends up being. But that's it for this episode. And yeah, I will see y'all in the next one. Thank you so much for listening. As always, bye.
You left the kitchen light on and it's 2 to go to there. It's better